Welcome back, everyone. This is the night shift. It is shift number 21, kicking off the new year. Once more, ZP here with DDK and Dan. This is the true calm before the storm. You got Yoshi in the Discord talking about, hey, patch maybe soon. We'll give you a heads up. Everyone's hoping that maybe next week. So, Dan, this could be the last look at Deadlock before everything changes.
Yeah. Just thinking. Have more players playing. It's going to be great. It's going to be absolutely fantastic because there's always a lot of I suppose extra eyeballs that get just put onto the game. It's a Valve title, so you can't look away. And in fact, Valve will probably be able to make you look towards Deadlock release because they own the platform that it's distributed on. So that's also a neat little trick. But the ZP, my true hope is it gets released in the middle of one of our shows.
Yes, I'm down for the chaos and pandemonium, and hey, it'd be a level playing field for the players because everyone else would be new to it too. Also, before we get into the format, big shout out to Zergy for sending the raid our way before the show. Much love, Zergy. Looking forward to seeing you in competition once again. But for those who are new to the night shift and wondering what in the world is this all about, we take some of the best teams in EU and NA, and we have them fight for the viewer's pleasure. That's right. We kick off with the challenging match here. It's Leviathan versus Lowkey W. Leviathan, Dan, they've been basically the number 2 team in EU since the departure of Buff Enjoyers. And, the third spot, it's been a little bit shifting. Fearless Fury sometimes looking good. Lowkey W looking pretty good at times also. And we'll see if today is going to be the week that they take the next step forward.
Yeah. I'm curious because every week we do see progress for most teams. It's been super interesting actually across NA and EU just how much of the hero draft is really playable and how many interpretations I think that we're seeing. So it's really cool. Styles makes fights is something that is always the case. And speaking of the hero pool, we've got the hero priority right here on screen as well. And so one thing I got to say right off the top here, ZP, is I've been pleasantly surprised that Pocket's made his way back to the top, actually.
Yeah, Pocket has been a big mainstay. Billy not quite on ban level, but still getting picked pretty early. The big change we saw with some of the impact of recent patches is that, Abrams last week actually was like the first pick of first picks, and then you needed a frontliner. The other team would grab Billy +1. But Doorman finally coming up to the level of like, yeah, actually, maybe we should ban this hero. Maybe this hero is too damn good. But Dan, we could not put on the show without the support of our fans and our patrons. And, start of every show, we got to shout out those that help make it all possible. Big shouts, of course, to our board members, Tetsio, Matthew S., executives in Affex, and all the rest that, throw in a bit every month here, Dan, so we can, essentially give this right back out to the players and the staff that make everything happen.
Yeah, man, maybe I need to have my own Patreon for some vocal coaching, ZP, because I can't seem to speak with the words. But we do, of course, appreciate all the support, and it's really cool because people get to be a part of something before it kind of blows up. You're talking about that new patch. We don't know what's going to happen exactly. We don't know, if there's going to be some stealth announcement with Valve where suddenly patch drops and the next day, maybe the international's around the corner or the equivalent of that. I remember in Dota 2, I believe it was still open beta when they had the first international. So there's really no way to predict when this is going to blow up. But I feel like everybody's on that same page, though, that this game it's a great game and it's going to really blow up at some point. So for all of you guys supporting, like, you were here before anyone even knew this was a thing.
That's right. You were here on the ground floor. When they do the iceberg memes 3 years from now, you'll be able to know everything people are talking about on the bottom level of the iceberg. When people talk about Spain servers, you'll be like, I'm one of the people that know. But you know what else we know here, Dan? The item priority last week. This was actually a big hit. We didn't do our usual post about this on Reddit. And someone actually came and was like, yeah, I'm just going to take this and throw it up there. And it was just replies and replies just going, guys, cult of sacrifice. What the hell? I told you it was overpowered.
Yeah, so much sacrifice happening on the server at the moment. I don't expect that to change. I do wonder what they'll do to adjust this item. I typically, an item board as much as this, as useful as this, and I think as widely as applicable, because that's the thing, right, ZP? An item like Cultist, you can buy it on pretty much every hero, and it's really helpful. Obviously, it's going to give you some of that extra gun contribution to get that power spike, but not every hero is going to necessarily want that, but it is such a good item, it's so efficient that it's just great for everybody.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting too, where Connect Dash came back up, where people realized actually item pretty good. You want the extra stam to begin with, and then just use it to get the extra fire rate on top of it. Connect Dash, it always feels like it oscillates from either no one's picking it or everyone's picking it, and we're back more in everyone a little bit more incentivized to pick it, as it turns out. But we're gonna be moving along here, and before we do, we are for this month and into next, we are doing a sub drive here, trying to keep things going, especially with the even next patch. But what's the point of subbing if there's not a long-term reward? And off the back of our Moe and Krill Night Shift skin, we got an Abrams Night Shift skin going a little bit old-timey with it. Deadlock kind of takes place in the 20s, 30s sort of deal, and Dan, we're going back to the good old days, fashion-wise, as it were.
Yes, I do love some suspenders myself. I think it's a fine look. Actually, so much more comfortable than wearing a belt. If you guys have never tried it, you should absolutely do it. In fact, it is just much more practical, ZP.
Well, we have to think
still
about
times are better.
Yeah, it was also made by people back in an era where physical fitness wasn't the greatest, and people realized, why struggle against a belt? A belt is constraining. Suspenders, you got room to work with there, Dan.
Oh yeah, it feels way better. But yeah, just generally a great looking skin, very peaky blinders, which I still have yet to watch, actually.
I also have not watched it. For me, I'm very hit and miss on media. Some media will be like, yeah, of course I've watched, and the other side will be like, I can't believe you haven't watched that. It's very, very back and forth. Also, I'm just fixing one thing here. But yeah, we're going to go to a roster here, Dan, which is going to be the Lowkey W roster, not the Fearless Furies roster. If the Fearless Furies roster comes up, then that's my bad. But in fact, it's the Leviathan roster that's coming up first here. And no changes to be had. I always start the day by messaging the team captains and going like, hey, have you changed your roster at all? In this case, Hapix is like, nah, no changes. They feel good about the squad they've assembled. And the interesting thing to me, Dan, is that this is a team that at times has looked good against Abrahams. It's just they're not quite able to put it together for the entire match, or they get stuck in drafts that leave them with really narrow win conditions.
Yeah, but like you say, they are pretty consistent in terms of the team, which is really nice right now, because I feel like we're in a period of time where across EU and NA, there's less consistency in the rosters. So that definitely is going to mean a lot. And this is definitely a team that is jam-packed full of talent too. OCs was somebody that I think is, newer to us in terms of the level of star potential. And now we kind of talk about him alongside the rest of these names that he's playing with. But OC is, I think, also stylistically is super interesting, because his capacity to farm is unparalleled, and it offers his team strategies that other teams don't look to replicate. So it is quite a fun thing to watch Leviathan. They have a bit of their own style that definitely differentiates them.
Yeah, and my last on Leviathan before we go to the next roster is Empty Dreams. I want to see you more in playmaking heroes. I think, Empty Dreams was more on the carry end last week. Didn't exactly pan out. I think they looked the best when, Empty Dreams was free to be a little bit more dynamic. But we got to talk about the opposition, Lowkey W, and you talk about pocket players. You got Cosmetical on the other side. Probably, I would almost argue, maybe if not the most famous pocket in EU, certainly top 3 most famous pockets in EU. I don't know if it has as much grandeur at that point, damn, you say top 3 at this point in the game, but hey, Cosmetical, household name.
Yeah, that's definitely fair to say, and just the lineup as a whole is great too, because it's a lineup that was hidden, I suppose, or at least this team of players, a lot of the names were more hidden, although I think a lot of them had within the region a lot of respect. When you go to before times, the fight nights or the night shifts earlier on, we didn't see these players, and so this is like a pretty new team that's become quite competitive. And having a player like Cosmetical is really how it starts. I think that we've seen ZP with rosters coming into night shift. It's often the case that there's some good players, but then there's gonna be that one that has that legend to them, and then over time, as we see them come back week in, week out, we see the improvements. We see a much deeper hero pool from the whole team, and then the evolution happens. And that's the stage that this team's in, I feel like, CP. They're starting to have that evolution, and they're becoming more dangerous every week.
Yeah, and again, it's kind of interesting how these things develop, right? Where a team may, just be in the challenging match and, not always making a big splash. But as we saw from Melee Creeps in NA, week after week, things slowly add up. And before you know it, you got a new champion of the region. And, EU, it's a little bit removed from its era, Dan, where it was the Holy Trinity, where we had 3 really, really strong teams between one win, Abrahams and Buff Enjoyers. But things go in cycles, and I feel like we're due to get the competition just rising up to the next level. But speaking of rising to the next level, Dan, we got 2 moles. They've been greased up. They're ready to go. A little bit of bare knuckle action to decide who's going to get their choice of first or second pick.
Yeah, okay, so Empty Dreams in the orange, and who's that? Is that Ozzy in the blue?
In the blue, it's I'm blocking I'm blocking the view with myself right here. It's Doi.
Doi.
Yes.
Doi.
So Doi for Lowkey W, Empty Dreams, and Yellen. This is really, really close so far. It's just been a lot of raw connections. No parries hitting here just yet, and both Mo's taking some time to feel each other up. Parry attempt comes on in. Both parries used, and it's down to the wire, Dan.
Yep. Oh, it chases him down. Empty Dreams. The playmaker of Leviathan is going to be winning that one, and we'll be off to the draft then. Leviathan with the first ban, and CP, what are we expecting to see be the theme of today in EU, the first ban?
If you go back to last week, I think Doorman was a higher priority, but it was a higher priority as we got into the games with Abrahams. It wasn't necessarily as highly prioritized in the challenging match. And in this case, Leviathan, they have first pick. So they're banning Billy, I think probably the angle for the Abrams pick. And I wonder if Lowkey W is going to go, no. We'll ban the Abrams instead, which is going to leave both teams on kind of a run on frontliners here.
Okay, well, let's see, how that pans out. Shiv gets removed, so okay, yeah, some of the frontliners are disappearing before our very eyes. First pick here for Leviathan. So you're thinking Abrams then, or what are we seeing? Okay, Abrams. Okay, so the prediction is made.
It's interesting though because then you give up another premium pick and Doorman to the other side. So I don't know if I love it, but it is where the pick priority is. And it's kind of interesting too, because there's been talks behind the scenes where some teams have been wanting, hey, we want extra bans, especially if we get a new slate of new heroes. And there's other people that go, well, no, you can't necessarily do that yet, because if you're to do that right now, then you'd have this issue of, well, you just ban out everything in a row, and then what do you do from there? But it's gonna be Mina for Lowkey W and potentially the Doorman, Dan.
Yeah, and I think Mina is interesting because who's going to play Mina? Is that actually going to be cosmetical? I wonder.
Potentially, yeah. I mean, a lot of times your Mina player ends up being your pocket player in a lot of these teams, but I also just got a last-minute substitution coming in from Hapex saying that Empty Dreams, it looks like, will not be playing, and Rayake is going to be in instead. So that's a little bit tough for Leviathan. We're given how important Empty Dreams has been to them overall.
Yeah, big shoes to fill. And we'll just have to see kind of how that works with the hero pool, because I'm not going to be nearly as familiar with the hero pool there as a substitute. So Viscous comes in. Very early pick for Viscous, actually. That already that kind of jumps out at me. ZP Viscous hasn't been as prioritized, at least in the early picks.
Yeah, and I mean, a little bit is more the, solidify what you're going to have both for support and playmaking at the 2-minute mark.
I'm a little late.
And they grab Page, so this is a full run on things that you want to use to kind of support your front line and go from there. I mean, Abrams is going to have their pick, probably going to get laned with the Page. But this is an interesting approach to a draft from Leviathan, where usually if you mess with Page, it's going to be a ban in the mid-stage bans, but instead you've picked both Viscous and Page super early. You've given up Doorman, Mina, now Geist in turn, so this is interesting, Dan. And we haven't seen this quite of a combination in the draft like this before.
Yeah, and I love the pickup of Geist there, because I was actually thinking Leviathan could have made great use of the Geist themselves, just with the roster that they're picking, just like you said, for the frontline heavy style. But gets denied. Victor gets denied as well, so that is denying a little bit of what would have been quite a nice fit, like you were describing with the Abrams Viscous Page already. So ban coming in. We don't have any pick heroes selected just yet necessarily, ZP. So I could see that getting targeted here potentially.
Do they ban Kelvin is what I want to know. Do they decide, yep, we're going to even take out that? But no, instead they take out Yamato, which is kind of interesting, because I thought in terms of frontline stuff with Leviathan, right now it's just Abrams, right? They could have went with the Yamato. But now I kind of look at it and wonder, maybe they're angling more for something like a Warden. Warden has actually, I think, gone up a little bit pick rate-wise, when people are like, yeah, we still like Gun Warden, especially as a carry option, sometimes picked over a Wraith. But to your point, Dan, you got Bebop in for a little bit of playmaking action. So for Leviathan, I'm expecting definitely either Paradox or Holiday in the next few picks here, and then also probably a Warden.
Yeah. Of course, yeah. Warden would be fantastic. It's really interesting though, because I do wonder if it does open up a Sinclair pick. But with that said, I think with Bebop and Doorman already, you've got some CC, you've got some pick, you've got some utility. So I don't know if you want to throw a Sinclair on top of that. But the Paradox coming in is super nice for Leviathan. Paradox, an immovably useful hero in Deadlock.
Yeah, Paradox, there's very few times where Paradox hasn't been in the meta, let's put it that way. You have to count that rather than count how often that she's been there. I mean, honestly, this is a bit of a lull for Playmaker priority. Paradox used to be, in the first pick status, but Hayes gets picked up. Hayes was picked a little bit more aggressively last week. I think people have realized the power that she gives you, especially in the early part of the game with more crate roaming. And oh, wow. And speaking of roaming here, Dan, Drifter making his grand reappearance here in EU.
Very interesting. Drifter has absolutely dropped off in priority. He did receive some nerfs, but that was, I think, one of the reasons. Not quite as insane in lane, because he had before, I think, the highest damage output in lane. And Lash to finish things off as well, which generally always is going to make sense against heavier frontline comps. But with that said, what are we going to be filling in here for Leviathan?
I would still like to see a Warden. It could also be a Wraith. I think you still need a more traditional carry hero for what you have for Leviathan in the remaining picks. Okay, it's going to be Wraith. They needed one of the two here, Dan, because Hayes does not fill the role. New people to the game might go, oh, Hayes, like, she does a lot of gun damage. You can have Hayes be your late game carry, and in top level games, it doesn't really work out like that. It's more so heroes like Wraith, Warden that tend to pick up that sort of role. But yeah, the one thing I'll say here for Leviathan is that they've kind of decided, no, we don't need that much in the way of tanky frontline. We're going to compensate with that by having both Page and Viscous, and that'll give us enough survivability.
Yeah, and with Wraith, or rather, sorry, with Hayes, Hayes' functionality in these pro matches a lot of the time it's got a lot to do with the Sleep Dagger, because it's really good CC, really good as a setup piece, really good because it's low cooldown too, that you're able to, if there's like flying characters and so on, you can kind of knock them out of the air. So it has insane amounts of utility in the top level play. So Hayes, it's so funny, it becomes more about utility. You're totally right, CP, quite an inversion as to what you see in regular matchmaking. But with the Lash to finish things off here, are you a fan of this?
Yeah, I think Lash has gone up. I mean, Lash's win rate right now, I think, on the aggregate is actually absurd. And, it's reflected a little bit in the fact that he is getting more priority in pro-level matches. Also, I just wanted to say, in terms of inversion from, maybe your pub games, especially if you're new, your Haze in competitive games actually works with your team. Believe it or not. Like, your Haze doesn't mute comms and tell everyone that they're shit at 15 minutes in the game. The Haze will actually coordinate with your team and work for the good of your team, which honestly, Dan, it's a rarity for Haze players at times.
Yeah. Just disappearing into the jungle, and you're never to be seen again. Oh my god, that's actually the worst feeling when you're matchmaking and you see someone that's like thinks that their job is to farm and not participate in any fights, and then when they eventually are like super stacked and they're ready to fight, the game's already over, and then you see at the end of the in the stats screen that they had like no hero damage at all. It's just like, come on. That's just not how you do this.
There's an infamous Haze 1 trick in NA that inadvertently caused the great hostage situation of 2020. I think it was late 2025. It wasn't 2026. It was last year, so, a full year away. But yeah, it just led to Crayon going like 3-27 in the game as, we kept trying to win against all odds as the other team just didn't want to finish the game. They had in their mind that they need to punish the Haze player for their transgressions, Dan.
Hey, sometimes you gotta take some extreme measures to teach somebody a lesson, ZV. Sometimes an individual will only learn if you make it the worst possible experience of their life.
The funniest part about that is the collateral damage, where I think like Saya was like streaming at the time, and Saya was just like, please just end the game. I don't want to take the leave, but please just end the game. But the reason why we're filling here, we're just waiting for the players to get into the lobby, and we'll see how this one goes down. I think overall, when I look at this draft, another thing that's a little bit interesting to me is she's climbed back up the ranks, in part from her early power, and just, I think where her power spikes give you influence over the game is Mina. Mina sort of went out of the meta entirely for a while, Dan, and then people just kind of warmed back up to her again. It's like, you know what, actually, Vampire Lady, pretty good. Let's play her a few more times.
Yeah. Her burst is really effective for sure. And with the item allocation changes to just rather the getting accruing items of the relevant statistic will give you power spikes. So the Spirit Power Spike on Mina, I think, was pretty insane, allowing her, I think, a much better trajectory into the early to mid game in terms of pacing. Because I think before that, it was kind of like a bit awkward to come online quickly. And there's a lot of other utility there as well with what she's able to do with silencing with Nox Nostra and some like very good cooldowns and becomes very annoying when those cooldowns get really low later into the game. So it creates like actually an insanely high skill ceiling for the output that you can get off of a good Mina. So Leviathan and Lowkey, they're ready. They're ready to do battle. Here it is, best of one, his EP in this challengers match, and with a stand-in for Leviathan. And, I was going to say with a stand-in for Leviathan, they're going to be in trouble, but Lowkey W, they picked Drifter, and I'm still not convinced that I don't understand what the thinking is here yet.
We'll see. I mean, Drifter, I think is disproportionately good in the pub end, but he's been neglected in comp. The best use we've seen of him was back in NA when people did Alt Drifter. And also, Dan, I gotta say, just on aesthetics, there's nothing low-key about that W. That is a high-key W. It's a large W. It's an attention-seeking W.
That is true, yeah, it is. It is attention-seeking.
Also, we didn't plug it here yet, but you can donate to the prize pool. Right now, of course, we're looking for more sponsorship here at the Night Shift. Base prize pool for both teams is $300, $300 EU, $300 NA. But with exclamation point donate, you can add to the prize pool, get a shout out, and also it all goes directly to the players.
Okay, well, usually we like to look at the lane setups. And in fact, we'll do it here as well. So we'll stay on trend. So we've got the Paradox and Haze in middle here for Leviathan, up against Mina and Bebop. That's actually kind of nasty, Mina Bebop. There's a lot of potential dangers there in terms of burst damage. Just one hook, you're going to get the love bites on you, you're going to get a bomb on you, there's the uppercut as well, so it's going to be hard to get away. So a lot of potential danger here. This mid lane, to me, ZP, feels pretty nice for Lowkey.
Well, it makes Hook even deadlier as a result, right? Where the main way that you work around Mina, especially one as good as Cosmeticals, right, is that you play around line of sight pretty heavily and don't let love bites actually get procced. If you get hooked in, it's getting procced no matter what. She's not going to miss that many shots. So it turns a hook into a near lethal occurrence in this lane. But also what's kind of interesting to me, Haze in middle. Haze usually is off in the side lane, but as we're talking about that, Drifter getting deep into the action, maybe a little bit too deep, getting a face full of goo in response. Super low HP and down. Doi, first to fall to Fremont.
Yeah, and there we go. Love to see these puddle punches. Fantastic connections there. Always a satisfying experience, at least if you are the one puddle punching. Speaking of punching, that's another nice aspect of the Sleep Dagger. It does give you some of those free melees. And so some damage will befall the Mina Bebop combo. But ultimately, they are pretty chill, and the Rake is going to be able to get some HP back here. That is another reason why Mina's kind of nasty. She can heal pretty effectively.
You know, I didn't mention the preamble, but I think the other thing that's probably helped Mina a little bit in recent times too was the change to green items. Mina actually gets benefit off green items in the mid to late game, where now that's a flat value and not percentage, because adding percentage value on someone that has very little HP to begin with, it's not as effective, Dan. It's just simple math.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great point. Okay, well, let's talk about some of the other dynamics here. Maybe we can talk about Doi. He's on the Drifter. He's paired up with Lash against an Abrams Viscous. We saw some teasers of that lane earlier with the puddle punches. Certainly not a great lane, I wouldn't say, for Drifter or for Lash necessarily, because you can't really get close. You know, the Abrams is going to have a lot of dominance in a lane like that with the Viscous.
Any lane against Abrams is a little bit tough. Pairing with the Viscous, pairing with the Page, doesn't quite matter. Also, it's kind of interesting. The Page with the Wraith it's a little bit more passive a lane than you usually see Page get put with. Like, Page often is with a Billy, Abrams, something that can apply a little bit more pressure, but it's more of a survive lane up against the Doorman on the right-hand side. It's Doorman and Geist on the right, as Trax runs afoul of OCs, as we were just talking about the lane.
Yeah, Doorman Geist is actually really interesting. I'm actually curious if the Geist went bombs or went life drain. Maybe we'll get a view on that in a moment. Because I would imagine with the doors, you can actually get a lot of output with the Geist bombs if you're doing it in the right way. They're coordinating those. So very dangerous lane to be up against because you've got the doorbells as an AoE nuke, and then you've also got the Geist bombs. So that's going to be fun. Geist is a hero that we've seen in NA be more prioritized. John is the main offender, and a farmed Geist is really, truly horrifying. So we're very, very curious to see how Blob is going to play in this game.
Right now, though, Dan, it's been a little bit on the quiet end so far. Small advantages eked out here and there by Leviathan. Doi with a little bit of a tougher start in lane, but the dam hasn't entirely broken one way or another. But as I say, that Sleep Dagger comes in. The haze on the roam. Drifter being dragged into the abyss. A little bit tough here, Dan, as all the expectations were going, hey, we'd love to see Drifter get played, and instead it's Drifter on the floor.
Yeah. I mean, again, very open to being proven wrong, but Drifter has been out of the meta because C value has been quite weak, and maybe that perception will get changed here, but so far it is going to the expected script. It's a very hard hero to play now, especially I think in the lane that he had, where he can't really have a lot of impact against the Abrams and Viscous, but then also doesn't have as much gun damage. Abrams, on the other hand, has insane gun damage. Didn't get enough there. In fact, got basically buffed by all of the changes.
That rotation may have come in. Oh, hang on, the hook into the uppercut. No way! Is Rake actually going to get away here? And no, not quite. But Cosmical is able to come in, even up, make it 1-1. So it's not without its merits, the final hook uppercut off in the middle, but off in the left-hand side here. More pressure coming in from the Abrams lane. Cosmical finds another, and the Mina really holding strong in middle here. And it wasn't on camera, Dan, but Cosmical was also able to get the pick off on the Obakim when Rake was off roaming. So even though Rake was able to get that pick on the Drifter on the left-hand side, there was an opportunity cost there, which is that you left your Paradox to, solo mid, and it didn't necessarily work out.
It did not. It's interesting though, it's 24k to 24k at the moment overall. Obviously only 5 minutes in, or 6 minutes in. But the standout really is that Doi's he's on 2.5k. It's really rough, man. He is extremely poor.
When people said, hey, I want to see a homeless Drifter, it's not quite what they're looking for. As Gooball comes on and roll it down, not again! Drifter just wants to live his life out in the streets of New York and just continues to get slimed, Dan.
Oh, yeah. And what's really interesting here as well is that, we are seeing a prioritization of the orange items there for Viscous also. So Free Mock is going all damage. We have seen damage into support switches. I think last week we saw that, which was interesting, but we'll see how Free Mock plays it. But he's certainly a dangerous character at the moment. And I feel like it makes sense, CP. If you're on a winning lane like that, why go support? Why not just win harder by just having more damage output when they already can't pressure you back? So it makes a lot of sense to kind of double down on your or just leverage your strength in that way.
I think part of it too for Viscous that people have just done the math and realized, wait, Viscous's gun scaling is pretty good, and you still get all the utility of being a Viscous player. So Orange Viscous is definitely for real, and it's been part of the meta. As Obakim is just fighting his ISP, presumably, is what's going on here. That's a second pause we've had to do. Wait, Blob says we are not ready. A little bit of pause lock action. It wouldn't be EU Deadlock, Dan, without some of that action. But you know what also we've had here, and I just happened to notice because it pinged on my phone. We don't have it automated, but we got a new Patreon subscriber going in. Wait, I don't know if there's a name here. It just has the full name. I don't want to read out the full name, but we notice your support. I just realized I was like, oh, do you want to? You don't want to dox your supporters is the main thing here, Dan.
What, the initials? Is that all right? And they know who they are. They probably know who they are already because they did it.
Yeah. The initials are ED. Chat. Behave.
So that means something else as well.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But, yeah, we're going to go away from that as a hook comes on in. And Obakim from internet trouble to trouble from bats raining down below. Rake coming in as Cosmetical has just been put on a gem of a game here in middle. The true upside here for Lowkey W, even though they're behind on the whole now.
Yeah, middle has been the only saving grace. Cosmetical's in an incredible lead on the Souls, but the rest of his team are fairly impoverished against the average of Leviathan. So yeah, Cosmetical's certainly the shining star. in the night sky right now. But okay, into the Baroness Hotel you go. As Trax is going to capture one. We'll see what else can be found here. That's a good connection there. Off of the Death Slam. Good follow-ups as well. So suddenly Captain coming alive on the Lash, and Lowkey W are able to really get some value here when they've otherwise been suffering. So we're like evening the game up already after it was looking grim for a little bit. But there's the Hyper Beam. I don't think you're escaping that one. That is burning Flammable away. And he is gone. He's out of the picture as the fight continues on this lane.
Break with the double, and Overseas looking for the hills. Has a Seismic Slam out, 150 HP. Still in hot pursuit. Going up wall jump, off and away. Still see Lash and Geist hot on his heels. And the final bomb going to take him down as suddenly Lowkey W showing big signs of life here, Dan. They were about like 3K behind on the aggregate. Now about that ahead. A little bit less, more like 2K.
Yes, indeed. Pretty good moment, I think, there for Lowkey W. And again, Cosmetical feels very dangerous. Life Drain coming on through there for some sustain on this guy. Staying alive is blocked, but no. Finally, the chase down will come to its inevitable conclusion. And it looks like... Oh, I was going to say, trying to peel away from this fight, not happening. Overkim is getting chased down. He's getting bombed. Looks like he'll have his teammates, though, coming in for the save.
Obikin has been the most reliable customer to Hook Inc. so far here from Drake. Drake's been having a pretty decent game here on the Bebop. Again, part of that middle lane that looked pretty solid from the get-go. And look at that. Flash not staying true to the canon, just giving up the center sacrifice for Bebop.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. That would never happen in any fan lore.
Yeah, that's true. Well... Looks like Bebop has a gambling addiction. Is that in the lore?
You know, it can fit in. You never know. I mean, Bebop spends a lot of time at home, needs a little bit of excitement in his life, and you know, he's just turned to punch in slot machines repeatedly. But it's also kind of interesting that you're feeding your sinners to your Bebop to this extent. Usually Bebop tends to be one of the poorer characters as of late. You know, people haven't been as big of fans of investing in his scaling, but Lowkey W saying, actually, we're okay with Break taking this resource.
Yeah, and there we go. We get a blob getting focused down over towards that right side as that Guardian is now... It's going to disintegrate. There we go. So that's a good claim of value for Leviathan. And as we hit the 10-minute mark, the bridge buffs will be contested. Looks like Lowkey W will pick up that one on the left side, and in the meantime, I think Obikim grabbed the bridge buff on the right side. So a split on the bridge buffs, and a kill though onto OCs, who's not been having a good game so far. Typically you expect him, especially on the M1 heroes, to be farming up and being ahead of the pack, but he is very well far ahead of Cosmetical, who is, I suppose, his counterbalance on the other side.
And Cosmetical, yeah, 13K, you're in the Mina pass back, and once more, Break finds Obikim. Fall through here from the Paradox. And that's going to be enough to take down Obikim, who, again, cannot turn around a corner without getting hit by the hook. Fight, though, still underway. Flammable backing up. Gets a little bit of support here from Rake. And as this is going on, you got Drifter just free road here to the urn turn-in. May not realize it, looking at the map. Ends up taking the door, but turn-in. Going the way of Lowkey W, who are on the verge here, Dan, of getting a pretty decent game advantage, but they give up the walker at the same time. Gonna be a bit of a... Wait, is this gonna be two walkers? They take it back here. This is very worth for the urn.
Yeah, big damage. Response comes on through, but the coverage of the Hyper Beam is certainly going to keep things in check there for Lowkey W. And they will find a pickup onto Rayash, so that's really good. You've got to win these fights, and look at the jiggling coming on through there. You can't get your way out of that one, no matter what you do from OCs. Who again is on the struggle bus in terms of farm, 14k on Cosmetical now. And I wonder, ZP, if it's with Doi, if it's something to do with the ultimate, that is some of the utility that they're looking for. There's got to be strategic reasoning for this pickup of Drifter.
Well, I think you want your Drifter that has more of an impact in the mid-game. Also, just to clarify, that was a Guardian and a Walker. I don't know why I read that as Walker the first time around. But yeah, so still, in terms of macro stuff, I think you're pretty okay giving up Walker for Urn at this part of the game. Like, that is a pretty good trade from Leviathan. So, all in all, they can't feel too bad about giving up Urn.
Thank you, Lil Brimley, for the $10 tip. We appreciate your support. And look at this guy. Can't get enough of the Gamba. What if he's got... I'll go ahead.
No, just the most we've seen Bebop hit a slot machine in a very long time. Like, we haven't... Bebop, he had it beat for a long period of time, Dan, and now he's just back at it.
Yeah, he's doing a good job. He is doing a good job. And I feel like Vrake has maybe like a tracking chip installed on Obikin. I feel like he always knows where to find Obikin for the hooks. Pressure in mid from Lowkey W. Cosmetical. Very damaging, but he's going to get his force back out of mid.
It's all simmering in middle right now. Flash and Drifter not necessarily a part of it. And Leviathan trying to take the advantage here, get a chase down. Looking for Vrake, who has been public enemy #1 to an extent, at least to Obikin. Chase down, though, not necessarily resulting in anything here just yet. Bit of a split off, and off to the side of his captain, actually, who was able to track down OCs with the help of Doi. So, pick off there works in Lowkey W's favor.
Yeah, OC's not having a great game on the raid so far, and that didn't even require a death slam. Normally it's hard to pin down a raid with the teleport, but speaking of ultimates, now we do get a pick off onto Blob, courtesy of the Bullet Dance, some kind of a...
There's no blades.
Well...
Yep. Nox right in from the top. Knockdown as more pressure into the walker. Off of the pickoff. Vrake goes down. Lowkey W. Some ill-timed pickoffs here as Leviathan looking to get max value off the turnabout. Still getting really good pressure onto the right-hand side walker, and it doesn't really seem like there's much to stop them here at this point. You're going to get the rotation out of Blob, but it's going to be a little bit too little, too late. Another walker here in favor of Leviathan, and you know, one thing we didn't really talk about too much, Dan, at the startup is who wants to win early, who wants to win, and who wants us to go late. And for Leviathan, I think they're okay if this game goes a little bit on the later side.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. You know, and a lot of these walker takes have been fairly unpunished. I mean, Cosmetical went back to see if he could catch somebody, but we're not seeing the punishes, I think, for these objective takes, which should be riskier. I think that's why you're highlighting, hey, this is such a big win that they're able to pick off these objectives so soon. Under 15 minutes, 2 walkers down. That's actually very, very good pacing. $50 from Escher. Deadlock, thank you so much for the support.
Big goes to players. Vrake lands the hook, but now maybe getting a little bit more than he asked for here. Obikin bringing some backup this time around as Vrake gets pummeled into the middle. But prize pool now up to 650, split between both regions. Thank you so much, Escher. And Obikin off on the revenge tour, looking for a little bit of hit on the captain. Captain just backing out. Ern coming on down, but we got a trip to the Baroness Hotel up into the way. Overseas. Thrown in and get support from his team.
Yeah, the urn in the hands of Obikin. Now, this is not going to get turned in, I don't think. Game is pretty close, and that's a very contested comeback urn position. So, just preventing the other team from getting their hands on it. Because it would be pretty easy for Lowkey to turn it in. Cosmetical. He's finding some harassment here. Teammates are nearby as well. Now it's going to be a catch towards Overseas on the Abrams. Nostra's coming on through, and there's the TP to try to find the finishing shots here. Lock down this Abrams, getting lots of good damage here. Straight into the Walker, though, to pursue this one. When do they cut this chase off? It's getting very dangerous. They'll have to back away.
Any non-Abrams character is probably dead there, but the fight on top of the rooftop, Captain getting caught towards the end, and the amount of orange that Fremont has picked up here is absolutely disgusting. Just recently picked up glass cannon. Even the vegetables he's eating, Dan, still have a bit of orange in them. It's like Brussels sprouts with bacon. We talk about bullet vest.
Yeah, very scary stuff there, I gotta say. And you got OCs to worry about at some point as well in the game as well, because Leviathan have now created so much space with the objectives. It does actually help OCs a lot farming to catch up. So that's OC's main job at the moment, and the rest of his team can kind of hold it down without his assistance, I would imagine, for the most part. And like you say, if they're able to just stall out the game, just play a slightly later game, they can absolutely guarantee that they'll run away with things with the carries.
Yeah, I mean, for Lowkey W, they may have already missed their window here, being behind at this stage of the game, but in we goes Rayek, looking for the Geist. Bullet Dance, doing a bit towards half. Still down in the Geist, but bites off way more they could chew. Cosmetical and Captain coming in there with the support. Blob not going to fall here just yet. As the urn still being held by Page, and once more, Vrake landing the long hook. Is fall through going to be there? It is. OC's out of it as Lowkey W making their last stand.
What's actually kind of interesting here is that Freemock is going to perhaps end up being the most important player on Leviathan, because he's the only one that's been able to actually start to get a lot of farm and just have some of these damage power spikes in respect to the M1. So, because OC's been he's just getting knocked out, he's getting targeted. With that said, the soul discrepancy it's not the best on Lowkey W. Obviously, they're a little bit behind, but most of the souls are pulled onto the Geist and the Mina as well. So that's a lot of damage output potential. So it feels like there's an opportunity here that Lowkey can get back into this game, ZP.
They're not out of it by any means. Part of it has been hooks coming in from Vrake. Of course, more of a point-blank hook there on the overseas. Not the easiest kill to go for. Death Slam attempt stymied. People getting out of the way. Captain getting swapped for it. Flash now under the gun, looking for a way out. You hear the seismic slam coming up from behind. Up, over, not quite able to clear the backside, but Captain getting caught anyways. Safe claim to pick off this is. Fight still going on. In onto the rooftops. Now Drifter under assault here by the Abrams. Urn picked up while this is going on here, Dan, from Lowkey W. And they would love to get that for the comeback souls.
Yeah, it looks very, very doable too. I don't think OCs is in any position to challenge that. He's the only one close enough to do it. So this is going to be an earn, absolutely. And behind this Lowkey, you need to make sure that they maintain this Walker. This Walker can't go down. Okay. Oh, he actually faked the ult, and he got the knockdown to get used. That's actually so smart.
Also, Lowkey W is able to get the urn. A little bit of it gets denied, but it gets him closer. Nox Nostra coming in here from Cosmetical. Obakim once more in a world of hurt, gets raked in the closet. No one loves that. And I will say, even though his Cosmetical has been really far ahead, I almost feel like you want your Mina to be even more active than what we've seen here. It's been one of the bigger threats in Lowkey W, and we'll see. This is the key point here. And oh, Viscous carted right into the walker. We'll see the rest of fall through is going to be here as Freemock looks for any way out.
Oh, big bag as well. I didn't see quite exactly how large, but that looked like it had to be at least 1,000 with the size of that thing. And suddenly 5k difference between these two teams, ZP. This has been like a somewhat, maybe like 10k plus recovery in the last minute. So this is a huge turnaround that's beginning to take place now. And again, I kind of turned my attention a little bit to seeing where OCs is, because he's going to be the guy that walks out in 10 minutes and can completely just shut down the game. And he is doing a lot better on the farm. He's caught up now. So that's a good plus for Leviathan. But they have to weather these fights here around the bridge buffs. They are going to be able to take this position on the left side.
This is so scary right now for Lowkey W. If they lose another player, this could easily ricochet into mid-boss. Joy might be in a bit of danger. Sir Joy is here on the map getting chased by the haze. Taking a little bit of refuge here into the Veil. And no one knows. You know, you'd think the smell would be enough, but maybe not. As Drifter able to just hide away. Doesn't get caught by Obakim, who needs to port out the other direction. So doesn't quite turn into a snowball the other way, although selling Hex now onto Flammable. It's Flammable with the urn, just looking for a bit of safety.
Maybe there should be an ability for Drifter, like just odor, that it causes damage. You know, some odorous kind of aura that he emits.
Drifter smells like day 5 on DreamHack in the bring your own PC area. I don't know if people get that reference at this point, but those who know. Slung Hex, just instantly applied over into the air, into the sleep. No Death Slam for Captain. Greg right on point with the sleep dagger. Seismic Slam though, over. Finds Captain right after. Into the fray goes overseas. Hyper Beam in or the top now from Vrake. Looking to clear things out, slow things down, give some room here to Lowkey W. Beam still goes even while you're sleeping. That's the power of robotics there, Dan. As Freemock can't roll away.
Yeah, that's actually awesome. I love that detail here from the dev team. Now the cleanup here from Leviathan. So, you know, if there was a comeback, it's completely evaporated. And the difference with it as well. Big edge now for Leviathan on the souls as they try to clean up this fight. There comes the bullet dance here, the captivating read to try to shut things down. And it's going to be really effective for Leviathan. They might be able to go for a mid boss here potentially. A couple players will still be out of the picture. They're all around the mid position. Looks like, yeah, they are going to be going for it here. OC's up to 26k. So OC's now close to the most farmed player, the third most farmed player on the server at this point. So he's really done a great job catching up. And now it feels like the window to do anything is closing rapidly.
Just Trex get there in time. You want a doorman play here, but you're just too slow. The damage coming in from Leviathan, too overwhelming on the mid boss. It doesn't give Lowkey W the window to heal up and come back in time. And they give up 3 rejuve charges. Worst case scenario here, Dan, because not only are you down 20k, but you know you're sitting on one final walker. The odds that you get out of this next set of engagements here from Lowkey W and still have your shrines, actually pretty low.
Yes, very low indeed. Doorman waiting patiently, sends his opponent straight through the door, and actually his track step gets eliminated.
Also, Obikim just left. It was by the walker, and it was watching the minimap the whole time. You didn't have the fall through there. Obikim just walked away. So Trax dies for the attempt, but once more the hook in from Vrake in the Noxostrum. Oh, they can stand the hook. The Viscous got caught on the door frame there, Dan, and that is brutal because that would have been a rejuve charge gone for sure.
Man, look at the damage that Viscous has on the gun. Actually, it's kind of wild. He's almost completely filled the orange bar on the left, the bottom left.
All orange. Even the non-oranges are still kind of orange when you look at Freemonk.
He's going for crippling next. Do you think Lucky Shot's coming anytime soon? Get the crippling Lucky Shot glass cannon combo.
Honestly, at this point, when you're looking for extra orange items, you're kind of running out of other options. You're basically on either crippling or Lucky Shot here. He's going crippling, and God, that's not even individual bullets anymore, Dan. It's just a stream.
Yeah. Ooh, plus 4% weapon damage. Adds up. It's like a machine gun. Basically McGinnis gun.
Can we get a check on the stacks? The glass cannon stacks here? I'd be curious. I feel like he may be at like 3, maybe 4. And yeah, there's
what is it again? Like 5% per kill? I forget.
It's 8% per kill.
8%.
He's at 0. All right, so no killing blows. So it could be even faster, Dan, is the actual reality of it. He's just, it was so fast, I thought it was like, surely you have a few stacks.
Well, it is a 35k difference right now, and this rejuve, it's going to run out soon, so they're going to be starting to make a push to actually spawn. Oh, we get the God Buffer DP.
Yeah, that's what we call good RNG there, Dan. The gods are blessing Mr. Viscous as Doorman gets swapped and immediately eradicated from this reality. Rejuve's still up. Leviathan looking to make what could be a game-winning push. Knocks Nostra from Cosmetical, trying to slow things down a little bit, but the damage being pumped by Leviathan far too much here. Lowkey W having to take a much more defensive position, and like I said here, Dan, about 25% left on the rejuve, and the odds that Lowkey W maintains her shrines so low at this point.
I feel like Freemonk's my MVP right now.
Yeah.
Or overseas.
I think I could also say Rayek. I think Rayek has actually had so many good stops onto Captain from sleep darts and just generally good position in the haze. I can be convinced for Rayek, especially as he's subbing in. But the shrines are gone, Dan, and so is the patron. Blink and you miss it. So now Lowkey W, not only are they down what's close to be 50,000 souls here, but to top it all off, they have to deal with mega creeps. So, you know, their win conditions pretty narrow at this point.
Yep, and they are just going to retreat to the rest of the map. Make some more money. Make some more money. Stack the cash.
Death brings
Get that compound interest going.
You know,
wait, when do we get rid of the holiday skins now? Feels a little bit late to be smashing Christmas packages. Come on.
Look, if you looked outside, there's still neighbors with their lights out. Like, people will keep their Christmas decorations out in the States until easily March, April, or, you know, some people, they're just like, well, you know, it's July anyways, it's 6 months till Christmas, might as well leave it out there all year long. So back to Rayek, in on the hunt once more, slowing Hex on the Cosmetical, barely able to slip away. Does get back on the zipline back to base as Lowkey W is praying for a miracle and getting one pick on the rake. That may be part of it, but that comes at the cost on the break. Obakim taking down the doorman and everything going Leviathan's way. It is just kind of stat check time.
It's absolutely ridiculous. Oh. Okay, now Cosmetical's having trouble with OC, so yeah, it's just not possible to really get much done at this point. As hard as Cosmetical tries, can't do so much. And the patron is getting obliterated, and we're about to have our first winner here today.
Leviathan, even without Empty Dreams, which truthfully seemed to be ominous for me as I was taking a look at this, given how good Empty Dreams has been for them. Rake comes in and honestly has an incredible performance on the haze. I think it's almost easy to underrate it, but I feel like every other time we were looking at Captain Dan, Captain was sleeping on the job because Rake was sitting there, right place, right time, times the dagger, and really prevented a lot of that value from the lash from coming through.
Yeah, definitely. It was a great performance overall from Leviathan. I thought there were moments when there was going to be a struggle, but we did see some good moments of resistance like this. Great death slam, indeed, to kind of clean up some of those kills and kind of even things up in that early game stage. But for the early game, there was only that one bright spot, like you mentioned, which was the mid lane for Lowkey W. Otherwise, Leviathan really crushed all their lanes, and especially the Abrams lane, I think, was really particularly impactful because that was also free mock. That was on that lane, and they shut down the Drifter pick pretty intensely. I think Drifter got way too far behind ZP very early on, so it felt like Doi did not really have any impact on the pick because he just got a bit too far behind, and so Viscous Abrams lane was a lot to do with that.
Yeah, I do wonder how things would have went if the Drifter had even slightly better of an early game. I mean, because the middle lane could have been a really, really big problem for Leviathan and how this game panned out. I mean, Rake and Cosmetical did super well. The problem there is that you kind of expect your Mina to do well early, and your Bebop isn't a character that's going to necessarily scale really deep in the late game. And you talk about people that didn't have a good game, on the other hand, I don't know. Like, even with OCs on the other side being lacking in farm, it didn't really matter when you had Machine Gun Viscous rolling around taking up the carry role without an issue.
Machine Gun Viscous getting it done. Totally agree. You don't get to see Viscous looks like that every day, so that was kind of interesting to see, and it was really important because OCs was actually effectively getting shut down. I think, like you said, Rake had like a lot of very, very, very good pickoffs onto him. Captain too on the lash managed to find OCs, and normally the Wraith is actually one of the pluses of playing a Wraith is that it's hard to shut down a Wraith. Wraith can solo farm, has a really good escape tool to be able to keep herself very safe and really push the edge of how many souls you can kind of farm. And OCs is the master at that, and he got shut down. So there is definitely some lights, some silver lining, I should say, but ultimately it didn't matter, of course.
So right now we're waiting to get a little bit of stats. I'm not sure if it's a good stats day or a bad stats day, but it's gonna be a bad stats day while we wait for the API to update. But we do have our MVP. It's in here, Dan, and you got to give credit to the man who subs in short notice in Rayake and has such a good performance here on the haze. And I mean, a lot of the tempo that Leviathan was able to maintain this game was Rayake making good plays all the way back to this early gank where, part of Doi's misery can be traced back to it.
Yes, when we talked about how haze functions at this level where, you get those sleep daggers, it's a setup piece here, you're setting up your paradox there to get the swap and the time warp wall and then all the rest of it, and that converts into a kill. And we saw lots of sleep daggers. Here's a death slap, but then the sleep dagger comes in. We saw the same thing happen to Rake on the Bebop, getting sleep daggered out of his ultimate as well. So a lot of really solid utility coming out from Rake, as you said, that is really able to help turn the tide and create opportunity that allowed for, like here, Doorman to just get absolutely wrecked. I don't know that there was a way to escape anyway there, but sleep dagger certainly confirms it.
Yeah, and credit where credit is due. I think Lowkey W did look really good at points, especially, again, you go back to their mid lane, it was solid. Vrake certainly would have been MVP if Lowkey W was able to actually, pull things through. But Leviathan, they've been number 2 for a reason, and, it is what it is. And we'll see if Leviathan this week has what it takes, Dan, to finally wound Abrahams.